how the ego appropriates the teaching. That's what you say. Most people believe, okay, I cannot understand the teaching unless I'm already realized. You see? And that's a problem, because you'll never be realized if understanding the teaching is a precondition for realization, and if being a separate entity, you cannot understand the teaching. Because, of course, a separate entity can never understand the teaching. That's the bad news. But the good news is that you are not a separate entity. You simply believe to be a separate entity. You are universal consciousness believing to be a separate entity. So, as universal consciousness, you can understand the teaching. You see? And when you understand the teaching, at that moment, you stop believing to be a separate and limited consciousness. So it's very simple, in fact. That which makes us blind is that we take for a fact that we are a separate, that consciousness is limited and separate. We take that to be a fact. Often people also ask the question, who understands the truth? Or who conducts self-inquiry? Who seeks the truth? And I say, how could possibly ignorance seek the truth? But ignorance is simply a belief held by universal consciousness. There is no ego. Already the fact that you phrase a question in terms of ego shows that there is kind of a misunderstanding there. Because ego refers to an object, to something which has at least some kind of subtle or physical existence. And the belief is that this ego has to disappear, has to be killed, taken out, dissolved, whatever. The ego becomes the enemy to deal with. And the notion of an ego is dependent on the belief to be already a separate entity, which has something solid and real to it. And therefore that this seemingly individual consciousness that is hearing my words right now has to be radically transformed to become something else, a universal consciousness. All of a sudden, through a magic wand that the guru is supposed to be holding, you'll be all of a sudden transformed into a universal consciousness. But that's not the way it is. The way it is that you are already this universal consciousness, believing to be limited and separate. As a result, there is no ego as a separate, limited, perceiving entity, which paves the way to the possibility of liberation from what? Not from a non-existent ego, liberation from a belief that we have adopted out of our own playfulness. So even the word liberation is wrong. There is nobody to get liberated. There is simply consciousness stopping playing this game through this individual body-mind being used as an avatar. Avatar in the sense, not in the Sanskrit term, but avatar in the sense of video games. So that's it. That's about the first question. No ego, only ignorance, which is a belief held by your consciousness / awareness, which is already perfect, universal, shared by all, and the reality of everything. The reality of everything. Now, what was the second question?
I understand exactly what you said. That's how it feels. That's how it feels. That I can feel the old belief. So the understanding, clearly, the understanding is there, but, I still have to transform this belief that's there. So we'll see. And
let's be clear here. Because either we understand or we don't. There is no such a thing as a half-baked understanding. So, what is the understanding we are talking about here? How do you define it? What is your understanding? Explain to me what your understanding is.
My understanding is probably really simple. It's not really complicated. I know who I am. I've been seamlessly clear on that, from an early age. But somehow the world crept in, in a big way. And
so when you say I know who I am, what do you mean?
Yeah. Well, I know that I'm essentially whole. And my understanding is that, I've been born into this life with certain influences.
No. You know what you mean when you say, I know that I am essentially whole.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
I'm trying to think of a way that everyone can understand it, but if I just be really honest, I just know that I'm God.
Okay. So you know that for certain, right?
For certain. For certain.
So,
yes, for certain.
So then why should you have any problem being God?
Yeah, that's what I always wonder as well. That's exactly what I wonder every day.
So the only possible explanation is that you are God and you forget.
Exactly. So, the most part of my life is spent catching that.
But listen, if you are God and if you forget, it's not that there is Satan there next to you making you forget. Right?
Right, yeah.
In other words, this forgetting is of your own choosing as omnipotent reality. Right?
Right.
Yes, this forgetting is not imposed upon you by any external power, since you are God, right?
Correct, yeah.
Right? So, why worry about it?
Why worry about it? Because, unfortunately, I never worried about it. It went into my very mature years, and then
you have to enjoy it. Enjoy it. It's like someone, look, it's like someone very wealthy living in a very comfortable mansion in Bel Air and who buys an expensive trip to the rainforest, on a little kayaking up the Amazon River, full of, mosquitoes, scorpions, all kinds of things like that, and always boring, always the same thing forever, day after day after day after day, hot, humid, right? And then they say, "Oh, I wish I was back in Bel Air in my mansion, right? I was so stupid to buy this trip." But then they have to canoe downstream the river to the next, helicopter facility, to be helicopter to the next airport, and then back to Los Angeles and helicopter back to their pad on their mansion, right? So it's a kind of clumsy way back home for them, right? But in your case, you are more fortunate. You are most fortunate because you can teleport yourself in one single moment. Just remember your God. That's it.
Yeah, it's true. And so one could say, don't cry over spilled milk.
So the only reason why you cannot teleport yourself instantaneously is because you have doubts about your being God, and you have to be very clear with yourself.
Yeah.
So
it's really simple.
Contrary to your statement, that you know absolutely who you are not that certain. The fact that you are not certain is the reason why there are these oscillations. I have news for you. This certainty requires a lot of experiencing to achieve in some sustainable form. What is important is not to kid ourselves. We are already there as awareness, that's true. It gets revealed to us, that's true. Can we stick to it? More difficult.
Yeah, more difficult. So, yeah, true. And, I don't know, I don't want to take up all the time, but one of the big things that's destabilized me is I attracted people and they became more difficult and more difficult. 3 people basically who were operating in 2 ways, with complete blindness that their cities and egoic nature had taken over, and also not knowing what they're doing, but also knowing what they're doing. And it was completely debilitating for me, and I was very naive, completely naive about all these things. I just, totally had my own private and seamless relationship with God, which was really, I must say, amazing. And what happened was, it was very, very severe, and basically I had a lot of difficulty then because I was psychologically destabilized and, became very, very sick, and I can't even tell you how bad it became. But a lot of fears, all these fears were introduced to me, spiritual ideas and fears, and I was basically terrorized. Yeah, so, and then I got out because I realized
Well,
the
but
severity of it. It's taken years to...
Yeah, I understand. But what we have to understand is that all of that was absolutely necessary.
Right.
It's very difficult. It's very common that the first access to the teaching is not pure. For the following reason, is that the purest teachings would be too pure for us, unacceptable. For instance, in my case, I was raised as an atheist, and I was very materialist. I was raised also in hard science. So, for instance, if someone would have mentioned to me the teaching of Ramana Maharshi, for instance, it wouldn't have been possible. I would have dismissed it right off the bat as being religious, or I wasn't ready for it. The one I was ready for was Krishnamurti. Why? Because Krishnamurti was saying, don't believe these gurus, religions, they are bullshit. Basically, paraphrasing. And
I understand that language.
yes, so that was petting my ignorance in the right direction. You see, so because he was petting my ignorance in the right direction, I was open to another dimension that he was kind of alluding to. It was like, smoking marijuana, but laced with something much, much stronger and much, much more addictive without knowing it. So you get addicted to the more addictive stuff. But then you want only the pure stuff. You don't care. You see what I mean? And read my lips. It's a metaphor. It's not a suggestion. And I am not addicted, neither to marijuana nor to anything. But
I can't afford that lifestyle.
so then, once we get addicted to the pure thing, then we go to Ramana Maharshi, or you go to the Indian scripture, or to Lao Tzu, or to Wei Neng, or to Buddha, or to... And then Krishnamurti seems like,
Yeah, that's...
a step on the path. Now...
Yeah, Krishnamurti was the one that I actually went to.
So, but Krishnamurti was a nice guy. So before that, you may find guys that are not that nice. But sometimes even the most corrupt, crooked, so-called guru or psychic or whatever, if you have the genuine interest, the genuine question may put you on the path. Just that then your path is going to diverge, right? Because you want the purest form of teaching which is available on the market, so to speak.
Yeah. Okay, I know, I understand.
So in other words, don't look back. Whatever has happened to you, you have not been victimized. Quite the opposite. The universe has supplied you with these beautiful teaching tools to improve your knowledge of yourself.
Okay, and I mean, I can't talk about my experiences because I'll be honest, they're so way outside of most people's even expanded experience. They are, and I know they are. And I was in a position where well, I don't want to discuss this, but the cities, came, and I ignored them, but they were incredibly strong. And also, the gifts. So what I did is shut down everything because I was so terrorised and couldn't discern, one from the other. But prior to these people coming in, now I can see. I don't know. Actually, I'm not going to make a statement about it. All I will say is I couldn't discern between the cities and the gifts, so then I completely shut everything off and, just got the terror.
Don't look back.
Overwhelming. Yeah.
Don't look back. Don't see yourself as a person.
Don't see myself as
a person, as a separate, as a woman, as a human being. See yourself as this consciousness, which is hearing my words right now. Only that. Only that is reliable about being you. And don't know anything about it unless this consciousness reveals itself as God's consciousness, at which point it's perfect. But other than that, just be what you are. Just be this consciousness without knowing whether it is God or not. Being open to the possibility that it is God's consciousness, but without believing that it is. Just open. Because if we introduce a belief, the purity goes away.
Yeah, that's really how I feel. That's what happened. I felt before I had a very beautiful and fresh kind of outlook, and I felt good, for the most part, and I'm really happy. And now everything's like, for years it's just been dull because of this experience with people.
Well, people are limited. People are not perfect. Gurus are not perfect. Ramana Maharshi was not perfect. Buddha was not perfect. He ate meat that killed him, or fish, I don't remember. He was not perfect. He died of food poisoning.
Yeah, but I suppose. Okay.
So gurus are not perfect, which enables you not to be perfect. That's beautiful. Don't worry.
Yeah. Okay. So it just seems that, well, I just don't know what to expect in my life at all, anymore. And it just seems dull. It seems quite dull. And it's I find everyone's very, very polite and kind, and there's no ripple in the pond. I'm not attracting trouble in any way, I'm not engaging how I was with my expression creatively.
If you
like very plain, dull kind of.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh well, this is just get up and, the best I can do is just be kind to everyone I meet, and it's dull.
Yeah.
So I just don't know. I don't know what to do. I kind of say a few times a day, oh well, what's the point? What are we up to? What's the point?
Who gets bored?
Just wondering. Who gets bored?
Yeah. Too many thoughts in you. Not enough space.
Not enough space. Yeah.
Just this me comes and tries to fill up the space. This sense of separation, this sense of I have to do something, I have to that propels you into the past and into the future. There is this sense of lack that seems to tell you that right now is not good. You know, you have to understand that now is God. And learn how to relax in God. To get abandoned like an infant on her mother's lap.
Yeah.
You are invisible. You are consciousness. Okay, Shelley.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Francis.